You can't attend your own funeral. But here I am, sitting in the storage room of Grace Community Church, watching through a crack in the door as 60 people mourn Victoria Marie Phillips, a woman who isn't dead at all. I'm Victoria, I'm 67 years old, and 3 days ago, I faked my own death. The front row, the row reserved for immediate family, sits empty. 3 chairs, 3 absent children, James, Diane, and Marcus. My babies, the ones I raised, fed, clothed, educated, and loved with every fiber of my being. Not one of them is here. I knew they wouldn't come. That's why I did this. My name is Victoria Marie Phillips. I was born in Greenwood, Mississippi, on August 3, 1957. I'm a Black woman who moved to Vancouver, Canada when I was 23 years old, following a teaching opportunity that changed my life. I spent 40 years as an elementary school teacher at Maple Ridge Elementary. I've been a widow for 5 years. My husband William died of a heart attack in 2019. We had 3 children, James 42, Diane 40, and Marcus 38. On paper my life looks complete, successful, full. But the truth is, I've been invisible to my own children for years. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my story. It's a story about family, about truth, and about the desperate lengths a mother will go to save her children from themselves. 1 year earlier, September 2023, Harold Jenkins' law office, downtown Vancouver. I sat across from Harold Jenkins in his 10th floor office at 1250 West Pender Street. Harold had been our family lawyer for 32 years. He'd handled our wills when William and I first got married, helped us with our property purchases, and held my hand through the paperwork when William died. Now I was asking him to do something impossible. Harold, I said, placing a thick manila folder on his mahogany desk. I need you to help me fake my death. Harold, 65 years old with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, didn't even blink. He'd known me too long to be surprised by anything I said. Instead, he opened the folder. Inside were photographs, bank statements, phone records, a timeline I'd spent 3 months creating. Tell me why, he said quietly. I took a breath. 5 years ago, when William died, something changed in my children. Or maybe it didn't change. Maybe I just finally saw what had been there all along. I pulled out the first document, a bank statement from James's personal account at TD Bank. James called me on March 15, 2023. He needed $50,000. He said his company, Apex Technologies in Seattle, was going through a rough quarter. He promised to pay me back in 6 months. I pointed to the statement. That was 18 months ago. I've called him about it 3 times. Each time he says he's working on it. Harold made a note. Diane, I continued, pulling out another file, hasn't visited me in 2 years. Not once. She lives in Toronto. That's a 4-hour flight. She's a doctor. She has the money. She has the time. But every time I suggest it, she's too busy. Surgery schedules, research, her daughter's activities, always an excuse. And Marcus? Harold asked, though he already knew. Marcus, I laughed bitterly. Marcus is 38 years old. He told us he runs a tech startup in Miami. He's been running this startup for 7 years. In 7 years he's never shown me a single product, a single client, a single dollar of revenue. You know why? Harold waited. Because it doesn't exist. None of it exists. I hired a private investigator 4 months ago. I slid over Detective Patricia Moore's report. 63 pages of documentation. Marcus doesn't have a job. He hasn't had a real job in 9 years. He's been living off credit cards, gambling, and the $2,000 I send him every month for business expenses. Harold read through the report slowly. His face grew graver with each page. Victoria, he said finally. I had no idea. No one did. Not even William when he was alive. I protected them. I made excuses for them. I enabled them. I leaned forward. But 5 years ago, something happened that made me realize I'd failed as a mother. What happened? I pulled out a medical file. The label read, St. Paul's Hospital, Oncology Department. I had breast cancer, I said quietly. Stage 2. I found the lump in January 2019, 2 months before William died. I didn't tell him because his heart was already weak. I didn't want to stress him. I thought I'd tell him after treatment. But he died first, Harold said softly. He died first. And then I was alone with cancer. Surgery in April 2019. Radiation for 6 weeks. Chemotherapy for 3 months. I looked at him. I didn't tell my children. Not one of them. Why not? Because I knew they wouldn't come. Or worse, they'd come out of obligation and resent me for it. I couldn't bear that. So I dealt with it alone. You were there, Harold. He drove me to appointments. Sarah Rodriguez from the food bank sat with me during chemo. Lisa Thompson. You remember Lisa, the girl William and I fostered 20 years ago? She took a week off work to stay with me after surgery. Harold's eyes were wet. Everyone was there except my own children. And that's when I knew. I'd raised them wrong. Somewhere along the way, William and I gave them too much money and not enough character. We gave them opportunities but not values. We gave them everything except the ability to show up. I closed the folder. I beat cancer. I've been in remission for 4 years. But I'm 67 years old, Harold. I don't have another 20 years to wait for them to wake up. So I'm going to do something drastic. I'm going to force them to face themselves. And the only way to do that is to take away the distractions. By faking your death, Harold said. By faking my death. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, tell me your plan. I spent the next 6 months preparing. October 2023. I hired Detective Patricia Moore for $8,500 to conduct a full investigation into my children's lives. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. November 2023. Patricia's report came back. It was worse than I thought. James's company, Apex Technologies, was $30 million in debt. He'd been borrowing against future contracts that didn't exist. The company was 3 months from bankruptcy, and James faced potential fraud charges. Diane had lost her medical license in August 2023 due to an addiction to prescription painkillers, specifically oxycodone. She'd been stealing from hospital supplies. She was currently under investigation by the College of Physicians. Marcus owed $197,000 to 3 different loan sharks in Miami. He'd been running a low-level cryptocurrency scam and gambling the proceeds. 2 of the loan sharks had already sent threats. My children weren't just disconnected from me. They were in crisis, and none of them had called to tell me. December 2023. I met with Dr. Raymond Foster, a retired physician friend of William's who owed us a favor. I explained what I needed. A fake death certificate, a fake medical record showing a stroke, and his signature on official documents. Raymond was hesitant, but after I showed him Patricia's report, he agreed. You're trying to save them, Raymond said. I respect that. January 2024. I started writing the letters. 30 letters. 1 for each night my children would spend in our family home. Each letter revealed a truth. About them, about me, about our family. Some letters were gentle, some were harsh. All were honest. I wrote them by hand late at night, at my kitchen table on Oak Street. Some letters made me cry. Letter number 15, the one where I revealed I wasn't actually dead, took me 3 days to write. I rewrote it 11 times. February 2024. I revised my will with Harold. The new will had one purpose: force my children to spend 30 consecutive nights together in our family home reading my letters. If they completed all 30 nights, they'd inherit. If anyone left early, everything went to charity. The total estate was $8.2 million. The house in Vancouver, $3.1 million. My investment portfolio, $2.8 million. William's life insurance payout that I'd invested, $1.5 million. And savings, $800,000. My children had no idea this money existed. I'd lived modestly. I drove a 2015 Honda Civic. I shopped at Costco. I volunteered at the food bank every Wednesday. They assumed I was surviving on William's pension and Social Security. They assumed wrong. March 2024. I rehearsed my death. I practiced falling, practiced unresponsiveness, practiced the timing. Harold arranged for a funeral home that wouldn't ask too many questions. They owed him a favor from a previous case. We set the date, Friday, March 29, 2024. March 26, 2024. I called each of my children to say hello. None of them answered. I left voicemails. None of them called back. March 27, 2024. I had my stroke. Harold called 911. The ambulance came. The paramedics were real, but they'd been briefed by Dr. Foster. I was taken to St. Paul's Hospital, where I was officially pronounced dead at 4:47 p.m. Cause of death: massive cerebral hemorrhage. I wasn't dead. I was in a private room on the 4th floor, registered under a fake name, waiting. March 29, 2024, Grace Community Church, Vancouver, 2 p.m. The funeral was real in every way except one. I was alive. Harold had arranged everything according to my wishes. Open viewing from noon to 1:30 p.m. Closed casket. Harold told people I'd requested it for dignity. Service from 2 to 3 p.m. Reception afterward in the church hall. I arrived at 1 p.m. through the back entrance. Harold had prepared a storage room for me. Small, dusty, with a narrow window that looked out onto the main chapel. I could see everything. No one could see me. At 1:45 p.m. people started arriving. Sarah Rodriguez from the Vancouver Food Bank came first, wearing a black dress and holding a bouquet of white roses, my favorite. She was crying before she even entered. Mrs. Patricia Washington, my neighbor from Oak Street, arrived with her husband. She'd barely been able to walk since her hip surgery, but she was here. Former students came. I recognized them even though they were adults now. Timothy Chen, who I'd taught in 2002, now a lawyer. Jennifer Martinez, from my 2008 class, now a nurse. Marcus Lee, no relation to my Marcus, who I'd tutored through dyslexia in 2005. My book club arrived together. 6 women I'd met with every Tuesday for 15 years. My church choir. My former colleagues from Maple Ridge Elementary. Parents of children I'd taught. People from the literacy center where I'd volunteered. By 2 p.m., 63 people filled the chapel. The front row remained empty. Reverend David Johnson, who'd known me for 20 years, stepped to the podium. He was 70 years old with a gentle voice and kind eyes. "We gather today," he began, "to celebrate the life of Victoria Marie Phillips, a teacher, a volunteer, a friend, a mother." He paused on that last word, looking at the empty front row. Victoria dedicated 40 years to teaching children. She believed every child deserved not just education, but love, attention, the chance to be seen. She gave that to hundreds of children in this city. Sarah Rodriguez stood to speak. She approached the podium with shaking hands. "Victoria volunteered at the Vancouver Food Bank every Wednesday for 17 years, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Rain or shine, sick or healthy, she was there. She organized our food drives, taught cooking classes for low-income families, and personally delivered groceries to seniors who couldn't leave their homes." Sarah pulled out a piece of paper. Last year alone, Victoria personally helped 347 families. She knew their names, their children's names, their struggles. She didn't just hand out food, she handed out dignity. She looked at the empty front row. Victoria used to say, "You can measure a person's worth by who shows up when there's nothing left to gain." By that measure, Sarah's voice broke. By that measure, Victoria died rich. She couldn't continue. She stepped down, sobbing. I watched from my storage room, tears streaming down my face. Sarah didn't know I was alive. She thought I was dead. Her grief was real. And my children weren't there to see it. Jennifer Martinez spoke next, sharing how I'd helped her through her parents' divorce when she was 8 years old. Timothy Chen talked about how I'd paid for his debate team fees when his family couldn't afford it. Marcus Lee described how I'd spent my lunch breaks every day for a year helping him learn to read. Each person had a story. Each story was about showing up. At 2:47 p.m. my phone buzzed. I'd given Harold permission to check my phone during the service. He texted me. Still nothing from any of them. The service ended at 3:15 p.m. People filed out slowly, many stopping to touch my casket, which contained weighted bags to simulate a body. Mrs. Washington approached Harold in the receiving line. I could hear her through the crack in the door. "Where are Victoria's children?" she asked, her voice sharp with anger. Harold, playing his part perfectly, said quietly, "They were unable to attend. Work commitments." Work commitments. Mrs. Washington's voice could have cut glass. Their mother's funeral. She left without another word. By 4 p.m. the church was empty except for Harold and me. He came into the storage room. "They didn't come," he said unnecessarily. "I know." Sarah asked if she could have one of your recipes. She's devastated, Victoria. Guilt twisted in my stomach. I'll tell her the truth eventually. After the 30 days. And if your children don't make it through the 30 days? Then I'll tell Sarah anyway, but my children need to know what they've lost first. I stood up, my knees aching. Did you make the calls? Yes. I called all three at 4:30 p.m. yesterday, as you requested. Informed them of your death, in the funeral time. And? Harold pulled out his phone and showed me the call logs. James Phillips. Called March 28, 4:31 p.m. Duration. 3 minutes 47 seconds. Diane Phillips, Chem. Called March 28, 4:35 p.m. Duration. 2 minutes 12 seconds. Marcus Phillips. Called March 28, 4:40 p.m. Duration. 4 minutes, 3 seconds. Tell me their reactions, I said. Harold pulled out a small notebook. He'd taken notes during each call. March 28, 4:31 p.m. Harold's notes read. James answered on the fourth ring. Background noise, office environment, multiple voices. Harold. James, this is Harold Jenkins. I'm calling about your mother. James. Harold, hey, what's up? I'm actually in the middle of something. Can this wait? Harold. No, James, it can't. Your mother passed away this morning. Silence. 5 seconds. James. What do you mean passed away? Harold. She had a massive stroke at home. The paramedics tried to revive her, but she was pronounced dead at St. Paul's Hospital at 4:47 p.m. Silence. 8 seconds. James. Jesus, okay, when's the funeral? Harold. Tomorrow, Friday, March 29th at 2 p.m., Grace Community Church. James. Tomorrow? That's fast. Can it be next week? I have the Yamamoto meeting. It's a $200 million deal. I've been working on this for 18 months. Harold. Your mother's funeral is tomorrow, James. James. Let me talk to my assistant. I'll see what I can move. I'll try to make it. Note. He said try, not I'll be there. Harold. James, your mother? James. I know, Harold, I know. This is just really bad timing. I'll do my best. Call ended at 4:34 p.m. Duration, 3 minutes 47 seconds. March 28, 4:35 p.m. Harold. Diane, this is Harold Jenkins. I have difficult news. Your mother passed away this morning. Sound of something dropping. Diane. What? Mom? How? Harold. Stroke. It was sudden. She didn't suffer. Breathing sounds. Heavy. Shaky. Diane. Oh God. Oh God. Crying sounds. Harold. The funeral is tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Grace Community. Diane. Tomorrow? I can't do tomorrow. I have patients. I have surgery scheduled. Harold. Diane, you're under investigation. Your medical license was suspended in August. Silence. 10 seconds. Diane, voice cold. You have no right to. Who told you that? Harold. Your mother knew. Diane. She knew? Harold. She knew everything, Diane. Will you be at the funeral? Diane. I need to think. I need to process this. I'll let you know. Harold. The funeral is in 22 hours. Diane. I said I'll let you know. Call ended at 4:37 p.m. Duration, 2 minutes, 12 seconds. Note, she never called back. March 28, 4:40 p.m. Background noise, casino sounds, slot machines, crowd. Marcus. Harold, what's wrong? Harold. Marcus, your mother died this morning, stroke. Marcus, fuck, shit, fuck. Sounds of movement. Background noise fading. Marcus. When's the funeral? Harold. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Vancouver. Marcus. Tomorrow? I'm in Miami. I can't get a flight that fast. Harold. There are 6 direct flights from Miami to Vancouver tomorrow. The earliest leaves at 6 a.m., arrives at 11:47 a.m. That gives you 2 hours. Marcus. How much does the ticket cost? Harold. Approximately $850. Silence. Marcus. I'm a little short right now. Can you spot me? I'll pay you back from the inheritance. Harold. Marcus, how much is she leaving us? Ballpark? Harold. We'll discuss that after the funeral. Marcus. Come on, Harold, I need to know. Is it enough to cover? I just need to know if it's substantial. Harold. Goodbye, Marcus. Call ended at 4:44 p.m. Duration, 4 minutes, 3 seconds. I read through Harold's notes 3 times. Each time the pain was fresh. James couldn't postpone a meeting. Diane couldn't postpone surgeries she didn't even have. Marcus asked about money before asking how I died. They're exactly who you thought they were, Harold said gently. I know. I folded the notes and put them in my pocket. Which is why this has to work. Harold, I need you to call them again. Tomorrow. Tell them about the will reading. Make it mandatory. Monday, April 1st, 10 a.m. at your office. They might not come. They'll come. Because I'm going to tell them through you that there are conditions to the inheritance. They'll come. Harold nodded. And the letters? Ready. All 30 of them. Sealed, dated. Each one has a specific purpose. I looked at him. This is going to get ugly, Harold. They're going to be angry when they find out I'm alive. They're going to feel manipulated. Betrayed. They might never forgive you. I know. But at least they'll finally see the truth. And maybe, just maybe, that truth will set them free. I walked to the church window and looked out at the cemetery behind the building. William was buried there, under an oak tree. I'd chosen my plot next to his years ago. But I wasn't ready to fill it yet. Not until I'd done this one last thing for our children. Call them tomorrow, Harold, I said. Tell them about the will. Tell them it's complicated. That they need to be present for the reading, all 3 of them. What if they refuse? I smiled grimly. They won't. Because you're going to tell them that their mother left an estate worth $8.2 million. And you're going to tell them that how it's distributed depends entirely on what they do in the next 30 days. That should get their attention. Oh, it will get their attention. The question is, will it get their souls? That night I stayed in a hotel under a fake name. Margaret Harrison, paid in cash. I couldn't go home yet. The house on Oak Street was part of the plan. My children would spend 30 nights there, reading my letters, confronting their choices. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the funeral I'd just attended. 63 people came to mourn me. 0 of them were my children. Tomorrow Harold would call them about the will reading. And then the real test would begin. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photos I'd taken over the years. James at his college graduation, arms around William and me, grinning. Diane in her white coat on her first day of medical school, so proud, so full of purpose. Marcus at age 16, holding the puppy we'd rescued, his face lit with joy. Where had those people gone? When had my children become strangers? And could 30 nights and 30 letters bring them back? I didn't know. But I had to try. Because love without truth is just enabling. And I was done enabling. Tomorrow, the game would begin. Monday, April 1st, 2024, I sat in Harold's private conference room, watching through a one-way mirror as my children arrived. James came first at 9:51 a.m. He wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit that probably cost $3,200, money he didn't have. His BMW 7 Series, least I knew from Patricia's report, was parked illegally in a loading zone outside. He checked his phone every 30 seconds as he waited in reception. Diane arrived at 9:56 a.m., 4 minutes before the meeting. She wore designer sunglasses indoors and a Burberry coat. Her hands shook slightly as she signed in. I recognized the signs now. Withdrawal tremors. She'd probably taken pills in the car to study herself for this meeting. Marcus stumbled in at 10:08 a.m., 8 minutes late. His Balenciaga tracksuit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He reeked of airplane and desperation. Harold would tell me later that Marcus had borrowed money from a loan shark to buy the last-minute flight from Miami. Harold escorted them into the conference room. They sat as far apart as possible at the 12-person table. No one hugged. No one even made eye contact. I watched from behind the mirror, my heart breaking and hardening simultaneously. "Thank you for coming," Harold began, sitting at the head of the table. He opened a leather portfolio containing Victoria Phillips' last will and testament, dated February 14, 2024. "Let's get to it," James said, checking his Rolex Submariner, also leased. "I have a flight back to Seattle at 2 p.m. "You'll want to cancel that flight," Harold said calmly. James looked up. "Excuse me?" "Before we discuss the will, I need to address something." Harold looked at each of them in turn. "None of you attended your mother's funeral." "We were busy," Diane said defensively. "We have lives, Harold, responsibilities. Your mother died, that wasn't a responsibility?" "Don't lecture us," Marcus snapped. "We don't need a guilt trip from Mom's lawyer." Harold opened his portfolio and pulled out 3 documents. He slid them across the table, one to each sibling. These are the sign-in sheets from the funeral, Harold said. 63 people attended. Sarah Rodriguez from the food bank. Mrs. Washington from next door. She's 74 with a hip replacement and she was there. Former students flew in from Toronto, Calgary, even one from New York. Your mother's book club, her church choir. He paused. 63 people showed up. The 3 of you did not. We explained, Jane started. You explained nothing, Harold said, his voice sharp. James, there was no Yamamoto meeting on March 29th. I checked. Your calendar was empty. You were at your office in Seattle playing golf on your simulator. James's face went red. Diane, you told me you had emergency surgeries, but you haven't performed surgery since August 2023, when your medical license was suspended by the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario for stealing prescription medications. Diane went pale. And Marcus, Harold turned to him. You told me you were stuck in Miami with no money for a flight, but your Instagram story from March 29th shows you at the Fontainebleau Hotel Casino at 2:47 p.m., exactly 47 minutes after your mother's funeral ended. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The silence in the room was suffocating. Your mother knew you wouldn't come to her funeral, Harold said quietly. She knew. And she planned accordingly. What does that mean? Diane asked, her voice small. Harold opened the will. It means that Victoria Marie Phillips, in sound mind and body, has left specific instructions for the distribution of her estate. An estate valued at $8.2 million. All 3 siblings sat up straighter. $8 million? James breathed. $8.2 million, Harold corrected. The house at 847 Oak Street, valued at $3.1 million. Investment portfolio of $2.8 million. Life insurance payout from William's death, invested now worth $1.5 million. And liquid savings of $800,000. Marcus let out a low whistle. Mom had $8 million? Diane said. How? She drove a Honda. She shopped at Costco. Your mother was an excellent investor, Harold said. She was also deeply private about her finances. She didn't want you to know she had money because she wanted you to succeed on your own merit. He paused. That clearly didn't work out. What's that supposed to mean? James demanded. Harold pulled out 3 more files. He slid them across the table. It means your mother knew everything. James, Apex Technologies is $30 million in debt. You face potential fraud charges for misrepresenting contracts to investors. Diane, you're under investigation for forging prescriptions and stealing oxycodone from Toronto General Hospital. Marcus, you owe $197,000 to 3 different loan sharks in Miami for gambling debts related to a cryptocurrency scam you ran. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. How did she? Diane whispered. She hired a private investigator, Harold said. 4 months ago. Detective Patricia Moore, very thorough. Your mother spent $8,500 to find out the truth about her children's lives since you wouldn't tell her yourselves. That's invasion of privacy, Jane shouted. No, Harold said calmly. That's a mother trying to understand why her children abandoned her. Marcus stood up. I'm not listening to this. Sit down, Harold said, his voice like steel. Because if you walk out of this room right now, you forfeit any claim to your mother's estate. All $8.2 million goes to charity. The Vancouver Food Bank, the Literacy Center, and the Women's Shelter will split it evenly. Marcus sat. Harold continued. Your mother has left very specific conditions for inheritance. If you meet these conditions, the estate would be divided equally among the 3 of you. $2,733,333.33 each. What conditions? Diane asked. Harold pulled out a sealed envelope marked to be read aloud. I'll read this exactly as your mother wrote it. He opened the envelope and began. Victoria's will statement, recorded February 14, 2024. My dear James, Diane, and Marcus, if you're hearing this, it means you didn't come to my funeral. I knew you wouldn't. I've known for years that I've become an obligation to you rather than a mother. But I'm not giving up on you. Not yet. Here are the conditions of your inheritance. 1. All 3 of you must spend 30 consecutive nights at the family home at 847 Oak Street, Vancouver. 2. You must stay together. No hotels, no leaving except for work during the day. You must sleep under the same roof for 30 nights. 3. Each evening at exactly 7 p.m. you will gather in the living room. Harold will be present via video call to verify attendance. 4. Each evening you will open one sealed envelope containing a letter from me. The envelopes are numbered 1 through 30. They must be opened in order, on the correct date. 5. You must read each letter aloud, together, with all 3 of you present. 6. If anyone leaves early, if anyone misses even one letter reading, the entire inheritance goes to charity. No exceptions. 7. You have 60 days from today to begin. Once you start, the 30 days must be consecutive. These are my terms. You may accept them or refuse them. The choice is yours. But know this, I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to save you. With love, your mother. Harold folded the letter and looked at them. Questions? This is insane, Jane said. I run a company. I can't just disappear for a month. Your company is bankrupt, Harold said flatly. Your CFO filed Chapter 11 paperwork last week. You're done, James. James's face went white. Diane? Harold turned to her. Diane's hands were shaking badly now. I have things to handle in Toronto. Like finding a new source for oxycodone? Diane flinched like she'd been slapped. Marcus? Marcus was staring at the table. If I don't pay Ricky Salazar $80,000 by April 15th, he's going to break my legs. That's not a metaphor. He has guys who do that. Then I suggest you complete these 30 days quickly, Harold said. Because your inheritance will more than cover that debt. Can't you just advance us some money? Marcus asked desperately. Like a loan against the inheritance? No. Your mother was very clear. Complete the 30 days, or get nothing. James stood up and paced. This is emotional manipulation. We could contest this will. You could try, Harold agreed. It was witnessed by 3 independent parties, notarized by a licensed notary public, and written when your mother was in perfect mental and physical health. You'd lose, and you'd spend $200,000 in legal fees trying. Why? Diane asked, her voice breaking. Why is she doing this to us? Harold looked at her for a long moment. Because you didn't show up when it mattered, and she's giving you one last chance to show up now. He stood and began packing his briefcase. You have until May 31st to begin. That's 60 days. Once you start, you have 30 consecutive days to complete the letters. Harold opened his briefcase and pulled out a large wooden box. It was mahogany, polished, with a brass lock. Inside this box are 30 sealed envelopes. Each envelope has a date on it and a tamper-proof seal. I will be present, either in person or via video call, to verify that you open the correct envelope on the correct date. He placed the box on the table. The keys to 847 Oak Street are in this envelope, along with instructions for the alarm system. The house has been maintained. Utilities are paid for the next 60 days. Food will be delivered weekly. Your mother arranged everything. He slid 3 documents across the table. These are agreements to participate. If you sign, you commit to the 30 days. If you don't sign, you forfeit your share, but the other 2 can still proceed. What if only one of us signs? Marcus asked. Then that person must complete the 30 days alone and receives the full inheritance. The siblings looked at each other for the first time since the meeting began. I could see the calculations happening in their eyes, the mistrust, the resentment, the desperate need for money. I need to think, James said. You have 24 hours, Harold replied. Meet me back here tomorrow, same time. Signed agreements or nothing. He stood. One more thing, Harold said. Your mother wanted me to tell you. She loves you. She has always loved you. But love without truth is enabling. And she's done enabling. He left the room. I watched my children sit in silence for 3 full minutes. Finally, Marcus spoke. We need this money. We all need this money, Diane said quietly. James was staring at the wooden box. What do you think is in those letters? Nothing good, Diane said. You heard Harold. She knew everything. So we spend a month reading letters about what disappointments we are, Marcus said bitterly. Great. It's a month, James said, doing the mental math. 30 days. I can do anything for 30 days if there's $2.7 million at the end. What about your company? Diane asked. There is no company. Harold's right. We filed bankruptcy. I'm done in Seattle anyway. James looked at them. I'll do it if you do it. My husband, Diane started. Your husband knows about the pills, James said bluntly. That's why he asked for separation last month. Don't pretend you have anything to go back to Toronto for. Diane's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. Marcus? James turned to him. Marcus rubbed his face. Ricky Salazar is going to kill me if I don't pay him. Like actually kill me. So yeah, I'll sign. He said in silence for another moment. Starting when? Diane asked. Tomorrow, James decided. We sign tomorrow, we start tomorrow night. Get it over with. Agreed, Marcus said. Diane nodded slowly. They left separately, still not speaking to each other, each lost in their own thoughts about what the next 30 days would bring. I watched them go from behind the mirror. Harold came into the observation room. They'll sign, he said. I know. Are you ready for this, Victoria? Once it starts, you can't stop it. I looked at the wooden box containing 30 letters, 30 truths that would either break my children or remake them. I'm ready, I said, but I wasn't sure I was telling the truth. Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, all 3 of my children returned. All 3 signed the agreements. Harold handed them the keys to 847 Oak Street and the wooden box of letters. First letter reading is tonight at 7 p.m., Harold said. I'll be on video call. Do not be late. At 6:47 p.m. I watched through the security cameras Harold had installed in our family home. James arrived first, parking his BMW in the driveway. He sat in the car for 5 full minutes before getting out, staring at the house like it was a prison. Diane arrived at 6:52 p.m. in an Uber. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, then took a pill bottle from her purse, swallowed something, and walked to the door. Marcus arrived at 6:58 p.m., cutting it close. He had 2 duffel bags and looked like he hadn't slept in days. At 7 p.m. exactly, Harold's face appeared on the TV screen in the living room via Zoom. Good evening, Harold Sao said. Please confirm you're all present. James Phillips, here. Diane Phillips Chen, present. Marcus Phillips, yeah, I'm here. Open envelope number 1, Harold instructed. James picked up the box. The envelope labeled 1 had a gold seal with Victoria's initials, DMP. He broke the seal and pulled out 3 pages of handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. Read it aloud, Harold said. Take turns if you prefer. James cleared his throat and began. My dear James, Diane, and Marcus, by now you know the conditions. 30 nights, 30 letters. You're probably angry. You probably think I'm manipulating you from beyond the grave. Here's your first truth. I'm not in the grave. I'm not dead. James stopped reading. What? Keep reading, Harold said calmly. James's hands were shaking. I faked my death. The funeral was real. 63 people attended. The grief was real. The casket was real. But I wasn't in it. I'm alive. I've been alive this whole time. And I've been watching you. I know you didn't come to the funeral. I watched from the storage room of Grace Community Church. I saw the empty seats where my children should have been sitting. James, there was no Yamamoto meeting. You were playing golf in your office. Diane, there were no emergency surgeries. You were at home taking pills, trying to work up the courage to call your dealer. Marcus, you were at the casino, betting money you didn't have, losing more money to people who will hurt you. You didn't come because you didn't care. And that's okay. I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to keep enabling your lies. James, your company is in ruins because you confused ambition with character. You wanted success so badly that you sacrificed integrity to get it. Diane, your medical license is gone because you couldn't admit you needed help. You wanted to appear perfect so badly that you destroyed yourself trying. Marcus, you've never had a real job because you're terrified of failing. You wanted shortcuts so badly that you never learned to walk the long road. I know all of this because I hired Detective Patricia Moore. I paid $8,500 to learn what my children's real lives looked like. And what I learned broke my heart. But here's what you don't know. 6 months ago, I paid off all your debts. James, I paid your creditors $30 million through a shell corporation. Your company is still bankrupt, but you personally won't face fraud charges. I bought your freedom. Diane, I paid your legal fees to the medical board. $127,000. I also paid a $50,000 retainer to the best addiction lawyer in Ontario. Your license can be reinstated if you complete treatment. Marcus, I paid Ricky Salazar and his associates $197,000. You don't owe them anymore. They won't break your legs. You're free. The inheritance you're waiting for? I already spent it saving your lives. What's left is $500,000 total. That's $166,666.67 each. Enough to start over. Not enough to coast. So why am I putting you through 30 days of letters? Because I want you to understand what you've become. I want you to face the truth. And I want to give you a chance to choose differently. You can leave right now. Walk away. The $166,000 is still yours. I'm not that cruel. Or you can stay. Read 29 more letters. Face 29 more truths. And maybe, just maybe, find your way back to the people I raised you to be. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. Tomorrow night you'll read about who you used to be. For tonight, just sit with this. Your mother isn't dead. She's watching. And she's praying you choose truth over comfort. With love, Mom. P.S. Yes. There are cameras in the house. Harold installed them. I can see you right now. Wave if you'd like. Silence. James dropped the letter like it was on fire. Diane was hyperventilating. Marcus stood up and screamed at the ceiling. Mom? Mom, are you fucking kidding me right now? She's alive? Diane's voice was barely a whisper. She's been alive this whole time? James turned to the camera mounted in the corner of the living room. His face was purple with rage. This is fraud, he shouted at the camera. This is illegal. You can't fake your own death. Actually, Harold's voice came through the TV. No death certificate was ever filed. Legally, Victoria Phillips never died. The funeral was a private service. No laws were broken. Bullshit. Marcus was pacing, hands in his hair. This is insane. She's insane. We should have her committed. Where is she? Diane asked Harold, her voice shaking. Where is she right now? That information will be revealed on day 30, Harold said calmly. If you complete the 30 days. Why would we? James demanded. Why would we sit here and let her manipulate us like this? Because, Harold said, she paid off $30 million of your debt, James. She saved you from prison. Diane, she saved your medical career. Marcus, she saved your life. The least you can do is read her letters. She paid off our debts? Marcus said slowly. All of them? Every dollar. So the inheritance is $166,000 each, as the letter states. James laughed bitterly. We're doing this for $166,000? That's nothing. Then leave, Harold said simply. The door is open. You can walk away right now. But if you do, you'll never know what your mother wanted to tell you. You'll never understand why she did this. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what those 29 other letters said. The siblings looked at each other. This is fucked up, Marcus said. Completely fucked up, Diane agreed. James stared at the camera in the corner. Mom, if you're watching this, and apparently you are, you need to know that what you're doing is cruel. It's manipulative. He stopped, took a breath. It's exactly what we deserve. Diane looked at him, surprised. She's right, James continued, his voice quieter now. We didn't come to her funeral. We didn't come because we didn't care enough. We cared about our deals, our reputations, our problems, but not about her. He sat down heavily on the couch. She loved us enough to save us from ourselves, to pay off millions in debt to people who would destroy us. And we couldn't even show up for 2 hours at her funeral. Diane started crying. Not the pretty crying of someone who wants sympathy, the ugly gasping crying of someone who's been holding it in too long. I'm such a mess, she sobbed. I'm such a fucking mess. My license, my marriage, the pills, I can't stop, I can't. Marcus sat next to her and awkwardly put his arm around her shoulders. It was the first time they'd touched in years. I'm a mess too, Marcus admitted. I've never had a real job. I'm 38 years old and I've never accomplished a single real thing. Mom knew. She knew, and she still saved me. James looked at the camera again. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, Mom, we'll do it. All 30 days. We'll read your letters. We'll face whatever truth you want us to face. He paused. But I need you to know. This hurts. It hurts so much to know we let you down this badly. From my hotel room, watching through the camera feed on my laptop, I was crying too. I know it hurts, baby, I whispered to the screen. That's how you know you're finally waking up. Night 2, April 3, 2024. Letter 2 was shorter. It was about James at age 10. James, do you remember your 10th birthday? You asked for a new PlayStation. But that morning you found out that Tommy Rees, the boy in your class whose dad had just lost his job, wouldn't be able to bring snacks for the class party his mother was supposed to host. You came to me and said, "Mom, can we use my birthday money to buy snacks for Tommy's mom, so she doesn't have to worry?" You were 10 years old, and you gave up your PlayStation to help a classmate's struggling mother. I was so proud of you that day. What happened to that boy, James? When did helping people become less important than impressing them? James read it aloud with tears streaming down his face. Letter 3 was about Diane. Diane, when you were 16, you volunteered every Saturday at St. Paul's Hospital. You'd read to elderly patients who had no family. You'd hold their hands. You'd listen to their stories. One day you came home and told me, "Mom, I want to be a doctor. Not for the money. For this. For the ability to heal people who are suffering." You became a doctor. But somewhere along the way you forgot why. The Diane who held Mrs. Henderson's hand while she died. Where did she go? Diane couldn't finish reading it. Marcus had to take over. Letter 4 was about Marcus. Marcus, you were 14 when you found that injured dog on Oak Street. Hit by a car. Everyone said it wouldn't make it. You carried that dog 2 miles to the emergency vet. You used all your savings, $387, to pay for surgery. That dog lived. You named him Charlie. He was part of our family for 12 years. You had such compassion, Marcus. Such gentleness with broken things. What broke you? Marcus put his head in his hands and wept. Letter 5 was different. It was about William's death. When your father died 5 years ago, I needed you. For the first time in my life, I truly needed my children. James, you arrived 6 hours after I called. 6 hours. Because you had to finish a conference call first. You stayed for 90 minutes. You answered emails while we planned the funeral. Diane, you came to the funeral. But you didn't cry. Not once. Later I found pills in the bathroom. You were high at your father's funeral. Marcus, the day after we buried your father, you'd asked me if there was any inheritance. Your dad wasn't cold in the ground yet. That's when I knew I'd failed as a parent. Not because you failed to grieve properly. Grief is different for everyone. But because none of you could show up. Really show up. Be present. Your father's last words to me were, "Victoria, don't let them become what they think success looks like. Remind them who they really are." These 30 letters are me keeping that promise. Tomorrow, the letters get harder. But you've made it 5 days. That's 5 days longer than you stayed after your father's funeral. I'm proud of you for that. Love, Mom. After that letter, something changed in the house. The siblings stopped sleeping in separate rooms. They started gathering in the kitchen after the letter readings, making tea, talking quietly. On night 5, after the letter about William, they sat together until 2 a.m. They talked about their father, about memories they'd forgotten, about regrets they'd been carrying. And for the first time in 5 years, they were a family again. Broken, damaged, but together. From my hotel room, I watched them through the cameras and cried tears of hope. 25 more nights, 25 more chances to save them. The next 9 days were a slow unraveling. Night 6, April 7th, letter about Thanksgiving 2019, the first holiday after William died. How Victoria had cooked for 3 days, William's favorite dishes, hoping her children would come. How James canceled 2 hours before dinner. How Diane came but left after 45 minutes. How Marcus didn't even call. I ate turkey alone for a week, Victoria had written. I froze the leftovers. I still have them in the freezer. I couldn't throw them away. They felt like evidence of something. I'm not sure what. Night 7, April 8th. Letter about money. A ledger of every dollar Victoria had given her children in 5 years. James, $237,000 in business loans, never repaid. Diane, $89,000 for medical expenses, actually pills and lawyers. Marcus, $144,000 in monthly allowances, gambling and drugs. Tony, $470,000 given. $0 returned. I didn't mind giving you money, she'd written, but you never said thank you, not once. You said I'll pay you back or I need more, but never thank you, Mom. After that letter, James punched a hole in the living room wall. Night 8, April 9th. The letter was about Victoria's cancer, but this time she included medical records, chemotherapy receipts, photos of herself bold, thin, sick. This is what I looked like when you didn't visit, she'd written. This is what I looked like when you were too busy. Diane vomited in the bathroom after reading that one. Night 9, April 10th. Victoria wrote about her friends, Sarah Rodriguez, Mrs. Washington, Reverend Johnson, people who showed up, people who cared. Sarah drove me to chemo 12 times. Mrs. Washington made me soup every week even though she can barely walk. The Reverend prayed with me every Sunday. They weren't family, but they acted like it. You were family, but you acted like strangers. Night 10, April 11th. The letter that broke them temporarily. Victoria had included photographs, dozens of them. Photos she'd taken over 5 years. James's empty chair at Christmas dinner, 2019 Diane's contact in Victoria's phone. 147 days since last call Marcus's room. Exactly as he'd left it at age 16. Untouched for 22 years. I kept your room perfect, Marcus. Waiting for you to come home. You came home 11 times in 5 years. Never stayed longer than 3 hours. Never slept in this room. Not once. I'm not angry. I'm just sad. I'm so deeply, endlessly sad. After that letter, Marcus walked out. He got as far as the driveway before James followed him. Don't, James said. I can't do this, Marcus said, his voice breaking. I can't read about what a piece of shit I am every single night for 20 more days. Then you'll never change, James said quietly. You'll never face what you've become. What we've become, Marcus corrected. Don't act like you're better than me. You punched a wall tonight. I know. James sat on the porch steps. I know what I am, but at least I'm finally looking at it. Aren't you tired, Marcus? Aren't you exhausted from running? Marcus sat next to him. They were quiet for a long time. I'm terrified, Marcus finally said. What if I can't change? What if this is just who I am now? Then we find out together, James said. Come back inside, Marcus said. Nights 11 through 14, April 12th to 15th. The letters became gentler. Stories about their childhoods, memories of joy. Victoria's own mistakes as a mother. Times she'd been too strict, too lenient, too absent, too present. I wasn't perfect, she wrote on night 13. I enabled you because I wanted you to love me. I gave you money because I was afraid you'd leave if I said no. I failed you by not teaching you consequences. So yes, this is partly my fault. And I'm sorry for that. That letter changed something. It wasn't just about their failures anymore. It was about healing together. By night 14 they'd established routines. James cooked breakfast, Diane cleaned, Marcus did laundry. They took walks together, talked about real things. But the hardest letters were still coming. Night 15, April 16th. Victoria wrote about expectations. I never expected you to be perfect. I expected you to be present. There's a difference. James, I didn't need you to be a millionaire CEO. I needed you to call once a week. Diane, I didn't need you to cure cancer. I needed you to visit twice a year. Marcus, I didn't need you to be Steve Jobs. I needed you to be honest about your struggles. Presence. That's all I ever wanted. Your presence. After reading it, James made a phone call to his wife Amanda in Seattle. I've been a terrible husband, he told her. I've been absent, obsessed with work, obsessed with image. I want to do better, if you'll let me. Amanda was quiet for a long time. Complete your 30 days, she said finally. Then we'll talk. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no. Night 17, April 18th. Diane called her husband Kevin. I need help, she told him. I'm an addict. I've been lying to you, to myself. I need rehab. Kevin cried on the phone. I've been waiting for you to say that, he said. For 2 years I've been waiting. Night 19, April 20th. Marcus applied to Vancouver Community College. Business Administration Program. Start date, September 2024. He was shaking when he submitted the application. I'm 38 years old and I'm going to community college, he said to his siblings. I'm basically a failure. No, Diane said firmly. You're basically brave. But not everything was healing. Night 20, April 21st. The letter was about Lisa Thompson. There's something I never told you, Victoria had written. 20 years ago your father and I fostered a girl. Her name was Lisa Thompson. She was 15, pregnant, addicted, and homeless. We helped her. We loved her. We wanted to adopt her. But you, all three of you, made it clear she wasn't welcome. James, you said, this family is complete. We don't need charity cases. Diane, you said she's manipulating you for money. Marcus, you said she'll steal from us. You were teenagers, I understand that. But you were also cruel. So we never formally adopted Lisa. But we kept supporting her. We paid for her education. We were at her wedding. We're in her son's life. She visits my grave every week. Your fake grave. Because she doesn't know I'm alive. Tomorrow night Harold is bringing Lisa to the house. You'll meet the daughter I chose. And maybe you'll understand what family actually means. The room went silent. We have a sister? Diane whispered. We have a sister we rejected. James corrected. Marcus stood and walked to the window. I remember her. Lisa. She was... God, we were such assholes to her. We were kids, Diane said weakly. We were old enough to know better, Jane said. I was 18. You were 16. Marcus was 14. We were old enough. Night 21, April 22nd. They spent the day dreading the evening. At 6:45 p.m. there was a knock on the door. Harold entered with a woman behind him. Lisa Thompson was 35 years old. Black, with natural hair in a bun, wearing a simple blue dress and carrying a small handbag. She looked nervous. Lisa, Harold said gently, these are Victoria's children. James, Diane, and Marcus. Lisa's face hardened slightly. I remember. The siblings stood awkwardly. Hi, Jane said. Thank you for coming. Harold said this was about Victoria's will. I don't understand why I'm here. Victoria didn't owe me anything. Lisa's voice was guarded. Sit down, Diane said. Please, this is complicated. They sat in the living room, the same room where they'd been reading letters for 21 days. Harold began. Lisa, there's something you need to know. Victoria isn't dead. Lisa dropped her purse. What? The funeral was a test. Victoria is alive. The entire thing was staged. Lisa's hands flew to her mouth. She's alive? Where is she? Is she okay? The immediate genuine concern in her voice was like a knife to their hearts. She's fine, Harold said. She'll reveal herself on day 30. But she wanted you here tonight because... He gestured to the siblings. They need to understand something. Understand what? Lisa asked. Marcus spoke. That you loved our mother more than we did. Lisa looked at him sharply. I don't... It's true, Diane interrupted. You visit her grave every week. We didn't come to her funeral. You what? Lisa stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. Your mother died and you didn't... She stopped. No, she didn't die. But you thought she did. And you didn't come? Silence. Victoria talked about you three constantly, Lisa said, her voice shaking. Constantly. James, the brilliant CEO, Diane, the amazing doctor, Marcus, the entrepreneur. She was so proud. So hopeful that you'd visit, that you'd call, that you'd... Her voice broke. I was there, Lisa continued. I was there every week for the last 5 years. Bringing her groceries, fixing her computer, taking her to doctor's appointments. Me, a girl she fostered 20 years ago who you made feel like garbage. We're sorry, Jane said quietly. Sorry? Lisa laughed bitterly. You think sorry fixes this? She raised you. She gave birth to you. She loved you unconditionally. And you couldn't even show up. You're right, Diane said, tears streaming down her face. You're absolutely right. We're terrible children. We're terrible people. And Mom knew it. That's why she did all this. That's why we're here. Lisa looked at them for a long moment. Then her anger deflated. She didn't think you were terrible, Lisa said quietly. She thought you were lost. There's a difference. She sat back down. Tell me about these letters, Lisa said. They did. For the next 2 hours they told her about the 30 days, the revelations, the pain, the slow agonizing process of facing themselves. Lisa listened. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she was angry. But she listened. Finally she said, "Victoria used to tell me, Lisa, love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it has to be fierce. I guess this is her being fierce." "Will you stay?" Marcus asked. "For dinner? We'd like to know you, if you'd let us." Lisa looked at him for a long moment. "Okay," she said. "One dinner. For Victoria, not for you." "That's fair," James said. They ordered Chinese food. They ate together. They talked. Lisa told them about her life, about how Victoria and William had saved her, how they'd paid for her education, how they'd been at her wedding when her own parents weren't, how Victoria was the grandmother her son Noah had never had from her side. "She loves Noah so much," Lisa said, smiling through tears. "She sends him books. She video calls him every Sunday. She's been more of a mother to me than my own mother ever was." The siblings listened, each one feeling the weight of what they'd missed. At 10 p.m. Lisa stood to leave. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "And I'm glad you're trying. Victoria would be glad too." After she left, the 3 siblings sat in silence. "We can't get those years back," James finally said. "No," Diane agreed. "But maybe we can do better going forward." "Starting with the next 9 letters," Marcus said. They nodded. The remaining letters were a mix of truth and grace. Night 22, Victoria's favorite memory of each child. Night 23, lessons she'd learned from her own mother. Night 24, her fears as a parent. Night 25, her hopes for their future. Night 26, a letter from William, written before he died and given to Victoria. "My dear children, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I want you to know, your mother is the strongest woman I've ever known. She came from nothing. She built everything. She loved fiercely. Don't take her for granted. Time is shorter than you think. Dad." They all wept reading that one. Night 27, Victoria revealed her new plan for the remaining estate. "The $500,000 left, I'm not dividing it equally. I'm creating the William Phillips Second Chance Fund. It will help foster youth, support addiction recovery, and provide business loans to people who need a fresh start. You'll each receive $166,666 to help you restart your lives. The rest goes to the foundation. I'm asking you to be part of it. To volunteer. To give back. To show up for people the way you didn't show up for me. This is my legacy. Will you help me build it?" Night 28. Instructions for the final night. "Tomorrow you'll meet me. I'm nervous. Are you? I don't know what will happen. But I know this. I'm proud of you for staying. For facing the truth. For trying. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Harold will bring you to me. Wear something comfortable. Bring an open heart. I love you. I've always loved you. I just needed you to see what love actually requires. See you tomorrow. Mom." Night 29. No letter. Just a note. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow changes everything." April 30th, 2024. Harold picked them up in his SUV. They drove in silence through Vancouver, watching the city lights. Finally, Harold pulled up to a familiar address. 847 Oak Street. Their family home. "She's inside," Harold said. The siblings looked at each other. "Together?" Diane asked. "Together," James confirmed. They walked to the front door. It was unlocked. They entered. The house was exactly as they remembered, but cleaner, warmer. Candles lit, food cooking, music playing softly. And standing in the kitchen, wearing a purple dress and an apron, was Victoria Marie Phillips. Alive, healthy, smiling nervously. "Hi, babies," she said. For a moment nobody moved. Then Diane ran. She crashed into her mother's arms, sobbing. "Mama, oh God, Mama!" Victoria held her. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Marcus joined the hug. Then James. 4 people holding each other. Crying. Healing. They stood like that for 5 minutes. Finally they pulled apart. "You put us through hell," James said, but he was smiling. "I know," Victoria said. "I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry." "We deserved it," Diane said. "You needed it," Victoria corrected. "There's a difference," They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd eaten countless meals as children. Victoria had made William's favorite, jerk chicken, rice and peas, plantains. "Tell me about the 30 days, Victoria said. "Tell me what you learned." James went first. "I learned that success without character is just noise. I'm closing Apex Technologies permanently. I'm teaching business ethics at UDC starting in September, and Amanda and I are going to counseling." Victoria squeezed his hand. Diane spoke next. "I'm checking into rehab on Monday. 90 days at Serenity Ridge. Kevin and I are going to try again. And I applied to volunteer at the medical board, helping other doctors with addiction." "I'm proud of you," Victoria said. Marcus took a breath. "I enrolled at BCC Business Administration. I'm also working at Herod's office as a paralegal assistant. It's not glamorous, but it's real, and I joined Gamblers Anonymous." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Marcus." "And," Marcus continued, "I want to be part of the foundation, the Second Chance Fund. I want to help people who are where I was." "We all do," James added. "If you'll let us." Victoria looked at her 3 children, imperfect, broken, but finally present. "Of course I'll let you," she said. "That's all I ever wanted. For you to show up. For real." They ate dinner together. They talked for hours. They laughed. They cried. They remembered. At 11 p.m., Victoria walked them to the door. "You'll come to Sunday dinner?" she asked. "All 3 of you?" "Every Sunday," Diane promised. "For as long as you'll have us," James added. "Forever then," Victoria said. They hugged her goodbye. Real hugs, long hugs. As they walked to Harold's car, Victoria called out, "And bring Lisa next time, and Noah, and Amanda and Kevin." "We will," they called back. Victoria stood on her porch watching them drive away. Harold appeared beside her. "You did it," he said. "We'll see," Victoria said. "This is just the beginning." They showed up tonight. That's what matters. "Yes," Victoria agreed. They finally showed up, 6 months later. The house at 847 Oak Street was full. James and Amanda and their 2 children had moved back to Vancouver. They lived 10 minutes away. Diane, fresh out of rehab, 90 days sober, was visiting from Toronto with Kevin and their daughter. Marcus lived in the basement apartment Victoria had converted for him while he attended college. Lisa was there with her husband and 4-year-old Noah. Sarah Rodriguez and Mrs. Washington came. Harold and his wife came. Reverend Johnson blessed the food. 23 people crowded around tables Victoria had set up in the backyard. The William Phillips Second Chance Fund had officially launched. They'd already helped 12 foster youth, funded 2 addiction treatment scholarships, and given 3 small business loans. James was teaching. Diane was volunteering. Marcus was studying. They weren't perfect. Some days were hard, but they were present. After dinner, James stood and raised his glass. "A toast," he said, "to Mom, who loved us enough to let us fail, and loved us enough to help us try again." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Victoria," Victoria stood. "And a toast to all of you, to showing up, to second chances, to family, blood, and chosen." They drank. Later, as the sun set, Victoria found herself on the porch with her 3 children. "Happy birthday, Mom," Diane said, handing her a card. Inside they'd written, "Dear Mom, thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for the 30 days. Thank you for being fierce when we needed it. We love you. We'll keep showing up. Promise. James, Diane, Marcus." Victoria cried reading it. "I love you 3 so much," she said. "We love you too," they said together. Marcus pulled out his phone. "Can we take a picture? All of us?" They gathered close. Victoria in the center, her 3 children around her. Harold took the photo. 4 people, together. Finally. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Victoria sat alone on her porch. She pulled out a journal and wrote, "November 15th, 2024, my 68th birthday. They came, all of them. They stayed. They laughed. They were present. Was it worth it? The fake death, the manipulation, the pain? I still don't know. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I could have done it differently. But I do know this. My children are finding their way back. To themselves. To each other. To me. James is teaching instead of chasing money. Diane is sober and honest. Marcus is building a real foundation. They're not perfect, but they're trying. And that's all I ever wanted. For them to try. To show up. To be present. William, if you're watching from wherever you are, we did it. We didn't lose them. The greatest inheritance isn't money, it's presence. And tonight, we were all present. That's worth more than $8 million could ever buy. She closed the journal and looked up at the stars. Thank you, she whispered to William. To God. To whoever was listening. The porch light glowed warm behind her. Inside, Marcus was still in the basement apartment, studying for his midterms. The house wasn't empty anymore. Victoria wasn't alone anymore. And sometimes, that's all the happy ending you need. Not perfect, not healed completely, but together. Present, finally, beautifully, imperfectly present. If you're listening to this story from somewhere far away, I hope it reminds you, it's never too late to show up. For your parents. For your children. For the people who matter. Success doesn't mean anything if you're not present for the people you love. Victoria Phillips taught her children that lesson the hard way. But she taught them. And in the end, that's what love looks like. Not perfect, not gentle, but fierce. Fierce enough to fake a death. Fierce enough to tell the truth. Fierce enough to give second chances. Fierce enough to save the people who matter most. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Now go call your mother.